Hey everybody, this is my new Opaline Gourami. It's a male, and I've said since day one that I had no intention of putting it in my gourami tank. I had another home for it, and I was going to keep that a secret, but I have been brainstorming, and I'm trying to play musical fish and figure out who's going to go where, because I've also got some other stuff going on. So I'm going to spoil it, and we're going to talk about where this fish is going to end up eventually, probably within the next week or so. I don't really see any need to keep it in quarantine for any huge length of time, but I'll keep it in there at least for a couple of weeks total. And then where I intend to put it is over here. I think that gourami would look absolutely fantastic swimming around in this tank. However, I've got tiger barbs in here. There's only 2 left, but I'm really afraid that if I put a gourami in here, which is a fairly slow-moving fish, it's not that they can't swim fast when they want to, but they're not really active swimmers per se. They're generally considered non-active fish. They just sort of hover around and float around, and they don't do a lot. And they've got those long modified fins that act as feelers, and I can very well imagine if these tiger barbs nipped at my angelfish, which they did when I tried to put it in here one time, I would imagine they would also nip away at my gourami. So the idea was going to be to take the tiger barbs and put them in this tank. And what I would do, since this tank is already kind of crowded, is take those rainbow fish and put them in this tank. And I think those rainbow fish will look absolutely fantastic over here. And that would be cool. But my T-bar here has just suddenly taken a really aggressive turn towards my gudgeon, and now I've got to try to figure out how to separate my gudgeon from my T-bar. So that sort of changes things around. My gudgeon being removed would be ideal, but I don't really know where to put it. All of my tanks that are big enough for it to go in contain fish small enough for it to gobble up. The only one I could think of would be my 125 here, but I've got Otocinclus in this tank, and I don't think the Otocinclus would survive. And I don't know if the gudgeon would survive eating an Otocinclus. I know one of my small catfish, my South American bumblebee jelly catfish, ate an Otocinclus one time and died from it. I'm pretty sure they've got spiky little bodies, despite I've read issues to the contrary where it says that they're defenseless, but I don't believe it. I've even shot some video about it. If I can dig that up, I'll attach a card. My Tenopoma over here sucked one of those little otos in, and boy, he spit it out like it was a hot coal. So I don't think those otos are defenseless. So I don't know what would happen if that gudgeon tried to eat one of them. I also think the gudgeon would probably have a go at one of these smaller Congo tetras, and I mean, honestly, that female right there was probably bite size for that gudgeon. So this isn't really a good option, but it's my best one, and that sucks if this is my best option. I've also thought about what I could do would be to take the T-bar out of here and put the T-bar over in my black ghost knifefish tank. The only problem with that is the reason the T-bar is in this tank in the first place was because I had to take it out of the black ghost knifefish tank in order to, it was harassing the black ghost knifefish. I did that in hopes that we'd see more of the black ghost knifefish, because this T-bar here would actually lay on its side and slide underneath the rocks to get into the cave where the black ghost was, and it harassed it that much. So I actually set this tank up, put the T-bar in it, and everything was fine up until a few days ago, and now I'm starting to see some aggression between him and the gudgeon. So I can't really move the T-bar back into the black ghost knifefish tank unless I take the black ghost knifefish out. So I've thought about possibly taking the black ghost knifefish out and putting it in my 125, and that's an option. But now we've got my T-bar in my black ghost knifefish tank, we'll still call it that. And then what? Where do I put my gourami? If I did all that, that would leave me putting my gourami in my gourami tank. And I know that probably sounds like it'd be a pretty good idea, but this gourami tank has female gouramis in it, and I really don't want to introduce a male gourami into this tank. I just think it would be too much aggression. I've had issues with that in the past. I kind of have some experience with gourami, so I really don't think a male Opaline Gourami going in this tank would be a good idea. Well, you can see this Loach here is really trying to get my attention. He really wants dinner. I really should have fed him about an hour ago, and I haven't. And you can see how agitated he is. That's kind of funny, actually. I'll get to it. Calm down. Good grief. Anyway, that's not really an option, putting the gourami in this tank. So I'm back to square one of what do I do and who goes where. The T-bar I don't think would work in this tank. I don't want the fish in here digging. I've got tons of fish that already live on the bottom, so the T-bar is not really an option. I don't really have any tanks that the T-bar could go in. I suppose maybe we could think about putting the T-bar over here in the angelfish tank, but I just think that would be an awful lot of aggression in a tank that's already sort of crowded, and I've got the aggression of the angelfish in here. They always hassle each other and fight because they're cichlids, and so putting another South American or Central American cichlid in this tank, you know, I guess it's something I can think about. That's an option. Actually, that's, you know, this is the first time I've actually thought about that. That might be an option. So, at any rate, like I said, this whole video is just kind of thinking out loud of what I want to do with all these fish. So, my two problems really revolve around what do I do with that Opaline Gourami. I've kind of got my heart set on putting it in this tank. I really think that gourami would look fantastic in here. And how the other issue is, where do I put, you know, or how do I accommodate separating the gudgeon from the T-bar? One, you know, if I can just get one of them somewhere, that would be okay. I don't have any tanks upstairs that are big enough, so that's out of the question. It's got to be a solution within this room, and no, I'm not setting up another tank. I'm sure somebody's already put that in the comment section below, but no, I'm not setting up any more tanks. I've got this room set up the way I want it. I don't even have room for another tank. I'd have to set it up somewhere else or start restructuring this room, and that's just not an option. I've got 14 fish tanks, and that's enough. So the option I don't really want to talk about is I can always take any of these fish down to my local fish store and trade them in for store credit, but I really don't want to do that. This T-bar is awesome. I love him. And then so is that gudgeon. This gudgeon is just a really cool fish, but they're very different fish, and I don't know where to put them. You know, both of them have their pros and cons. So again, maybe we'll think more about putting this guy in the angelfish tank. That might be a solution. I don't know. I don't really have anything growing in the angelfish tank as far as planted plants, so him getting in there and digging and doing his thing might not be that much of an issue. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to think about that. So I really also kind of want these rainbow fish in the gourami tank. As beautiful as they are, and as much as they pop in this tank, you know, they're kind of cramped. They're getting kind of big. This is only a 40-gallon tank, and there's a, you know, school of 6 of them in there. So imagine those beautiful colored orange fish in this tank. You know, if there's any sentimentality of, oh, that's my T-bar and gudgeon tank, and it's always had those rainbow fish in there, and it's, you know, things change, and it's in my fish room, things always change. It's been fairly stable over the last couple of years for the most part. I've sort of settled down with doing all my experimenting with fish, but things always change. Good grief, I'm going to get to it. Calm down. See if we can taunt him a little bit, make him think he's getting some dinner. Look at him go. He's like an angry porpoise. Anyway, yeah, just imagine what those rainbow fish would look like in this tank. as opposed to where they are, without the sentimental aspect of thinking about them as that being their home. Just imagine those fish in here, that orange mixed with the orange of the clown loaches, and then we'd have the contrast of all the green, and then we've got the red tiger lotus in the dark background. I just think they would look fantastic. They'd have all that swimming room, they'd be able to interact with all those plants in that sort of three-dimensional way that they do. So the more I think about it, the more I really want those rainbow fish in this tank. That still leaves me sort of stuck for where to put either the gudgeon or the T-bar. So maybe we can think more about the T-bar going over here in my angelfish tank. I'll give that some consideration. We'll have to see. I also want to mention, I spoke the other day about losing one of my 3 remaining golden shiners. And now that I'm down to 2, for some reason, suddenly one of them has turned really aggressive. It's attacking not only the other golden shiner that's in the tank, that is hiding in the corner, and you can see how its scales are all bashed up and torn up. This one's also chasing any of the other large shiners in the tank, or any of the other large minnows, whatever they are, whatever species. Shiners is just kind of a generic term for any sort of shiny minnow. But you can see it's attacking just about anybody that's a similar size and shape to it, and I'm just kind of wondering what the hell happened when its numbers got reduced. So that really makes me want to go and get some more down at the bait shop. But the bait shop just gets in shiners. They get in whatever they get in. They don't know what species they are, so I'd be throwing the dice if I went down there and bought a dozen shiners as to whether or not I'd be bringing this species of shiner home. So that's another little conundrum I'm working on right now, and we'll see how that turns out. So at any rate, there you go. That's what I've been thinking about today, and any thoughts or suggestions or whatever are certainly welcome. Somebody might say something that might spur something for me. I hadn't thought of that, and I might work out some sort of solution. But there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Again, feel free to comment, give me your suggestions. Make sure you're subscribed, and maybe you'll get to see how this all works out someday. So thanks again for watching. See you real soon on the next one.